This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have the reigning 2022 Kings Classic Auction Champion of the world, or at least the fantasy industry. You may know him from Lightning Round Fantasy Football. You may know him for just being a reasonable fantasy analyst on social media. It is none other than Fantasy Alarm's Kevin Tompkins. Welcome in, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Kev. This is awesome. And look, you know how much of that grind as far as the auction goes, because you were in the room with us this year. You and Dustin manning the ones and twos on that draft board. So look, there's a lot that goes into that, but probably the most taxing draft I've ever been in last year. And then this year, this past August, even more so with moving up into the A division, so to speak. So definitely tough stuff, but wouldn't trade it for the world.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm sure that's a fun experience. Obviously, looking around that room, you got some heavy hitters in all those Kings Classic drafts. So quite an honor. Seriously, congratulations on being that reigning champion, and hopefully the season's going all right this year.
Yeah, this league is beating each other up. There is a 6-way tie currently at 6-4. I am one of those teams, but couple very close losses. It could be better, but look, just to be in the mix with the Bob Harrises and the Jeff Ratcliffes and guys like that, being able to look around and go, But when I walked into that draft room in August, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like, there's Howard Bender, there's Brad Evans, there's all these guys. I'm like, what am I doing here? But just being able to hang with those guys in a big 14 team. Lots of flexes. If you look around and you try to find somebody, that people are talking about on waivers, they've been gone for weeks. So you really got to be on your game. But just being able to hang with those guys in a league like that is it's a taxing week to week thing.
I would imagine. You got Andy Barris, you got Dave Richard, You got Jeff Mance. I mean, it's pretty awesome. So cool to be a part of it, just at least running that draft board and getting to witness that. That was a lot of fun. Obviously, the expo, we'll talk about that in a bit, but such a great event. So, on this front, I'm happy to have another Kevin on here. It's about time. So happy to have another Kevin on the show. It is Thanksgiving week. So we're going to celebrate a little bit of thankfulness. What at this time in your life are you most thankful for at this time?
Thankful I get to see, another day, and then the day after that, a lot of people, I certainly am lucky to be able to call fantasy football at least a job. And it's really not a job when you love what you do, and just being able to wake up and I don't have to go into an office or anything like that. And I like what I do and love the people that I do it with and have a great support system. That is what I'm thankful for. I'm thankful for the people around me that are supportive and helpful and loving, and I couldn't ask for anything better than what I have right now. So just being able to be thankful for what you have when you have it, rather than wishing you had this and that. Just kind of be in the moment and be thankful for what you have at the moment.
It's a great perspective. Take me back to when you developed a passion for sports. Did it happen early on? Were you a big sports fan as a kid?
Oh, absolutely. My dad basically got all of my teams from him. I idolized him. He Yankee fan, grew up in Syracuse, New York. I know you just had Brian Drake on, so going to be a lot of the repeating Syracuse talk. And it's funny because before meeting at the expo a few years ago, I had never met Brian Drake. Being in Syracuse, it's funny how things work out, and I met him the first time at the expo 3 years ago. So pretty funny how that works out. But yeah, Syracuse basketball, Syracuse football, Green Bay Packers, and the Yankees, kind of always lived by the, remember those old sports almanacs?
Yeah.
One of those every year for Christmas, the information please, or whatever it's called, that almanac, and then the ESPN sports almanac, and just reading those like it was like a normal book, and reading the newspaper and watching, ESPN, the prime time when they had Chris Berman and Tom Jackson doing the Sunday night highlights before you get the paper in the morning to check all the stats. This is the 90s, so not everybody had AOL or had internet to be able to check on everything at that second. So just watching, you could only watch like one game a week. It is what it is. That was the time we lived in.
It's true. It was a fun time, obviously. Great times, different times. But you're right. I mean, NFL Prime Time, Sports Center. The different magazines, Sporting News, Sports Illustrated. I mean, that's how we did it. And obviously with fantasy, if you played back then, I mean, you're dealing with paper. It was a different time. But
Yep.
You're right. Games. It was more selective, right? There just wasn't a lot of games on. I think that's a lot. Obviously Barry Sanders was, in my opinion, the greatest ever, just as an entertaining player to watch.
Yeah.
But to me, I love Thanksgiving because of Barry Sanders. Thanksgiving was special to me because every year I got to watch Barry, and you didn't always get to watch Barry. So, in fact, I met Barry Sanders once at some event, and I told him that. I said, "You made Thanksgiving my favorite holiday."
Yeah, as a Packer fan, he brutalized us for every single team, but twice a year the Packers, it was the Barry Sanders show for the most part. Even though those Lions teams weren't so great, but you knew you were in for something when when number 20 was hitting the field, and yeah, Thanksgiving, that's, I became a Packer fan because of my grandpa who, he was from Wisconsin, came over from after Korea and settled in Syracuse and started family and got us all into being Packers fans. So, seeing Detroit was always on Thanksgiving, and then, an intense hatred for the Dallas Cowboys as they were always at Thanksgiving too. So
yeah,
that kind of went hand in hand as well.
Yeah, at least you got to watch Barry when you're watching Detroit, and obviously, I'm sure you have feelings about Tony Mandarich picking him over Barry. That was, probably one of the worst decisions the franchise has ever made. But hey, it is what it is. I do remember a playoff game where Barry had 0 yards because of the Packers' defense. So lots of memories. I'm sure you were a big fan of those early, like that Sterling Sharpe. I think that's your guy, right?
Sterling Sharpe is my guy. That's the first jersey I ever owned. That's the first wore that jersey the first day of middle school, the 84. But yeah, Sterling Sharpe was like the first player I ever really gravitated toward. As far as I love wide receivers, I love tight ends, so he was my guy. Him, like guys like Robert Brooks, Antonio Freeman, Dorsey Levens went to high school in Syracuse.
Nice.
So that was another one of my guys too. Got to meet him, got to meet his dad, and got some of his memorabilia as well. So definitely a big those 90s Packers teams, Reggie White and guys like that. Fantastic. Great time to be a Packer fan.
The Magic Man, right? Tom McCown.
I had that poster. I think
nice.
a lot of Packer fans had that. The Magic Man, Majik, that big poster you'd see it like I think you had to order it through like a magazine or something like that. But they had all the posters, and I definitely had that one. I remember that specifically. And then I think there was a Sterling Sharpe one. It was like Sharp Dressed Man or something like that. He's wearing a suit with like the football. I had that one too.
Yeah, nothing like those old school posters. Those were always entertaining to look back on those. And Sterling Sharpe, a guy that obviously cut short of injury was phenomenal. So, and I think obviously over time people they forget that or they never knew it. The younger crowd. But Sterling Sharpe was special. So that was you got good taste.
Yeah, and Shannon Sharpe will say it himself. He's the second best Sharpe in the family behind Sterling. So.
Yeah, he does say that. You're right. So when did you discover fantasy sports and fantasy football?
Yeah, so that actually happened kind of by accident, doing some work in because I didn't have a computer growing up until after high school. This was it was 2001, I want to say. So I believe I was in the computer lab at our library, and I think everybody and their mother was on Yahoo at the time, and fantasy football came up, and sports.yahoo, whatever. And that kind of came up, and just joined a public league. And then I found out some friends of mine had a league and got into that. And that, kind of folded pretty quickly. But I do remember it was the year that Stephen Davis, I don't know if you remember, the running back for, I believe, Washington at the time. Yep. And I remember he came on and he was like a late round pick. And I remember he did really, really, really well. I think he was like a top, I want to say 5'6" running back. And I'm like, I want to chase this. So I did. And I played fantasy every single year ever since, wanting to find, those later round guys and being able, you can draft all the studs you want, but, it's really fun to pick out, who you think is the undervalued guy that's going to kind of take you over the top. Everybody can draft Peyton Manning and, Priest Holmes and Jerome Bettis and all these guys, but, find those late round guys, I think really kind of appealed to me as far as bargain hunting, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Sure. So, who were the first analysts you remember even like being aware of in the industry?
So I never really consumed a lot of content as far as fantasy. I probably should have. I probably would have won a lot more leagues then, but I remember, being on I mainly did a lot of leagues on CBS. So you're looking at Jamie Eisenberg and you look at Dave Richard, who's, I told him that I'm like, you were one of the first analysts I ever read as far as, at the King's Classic. Now getting to share a league with him is just, 20-year-old Kevin's mind blown. But, and then the 060 podcast, the Matthew Berry, Field Yates, that, iteration of the ESPN Fantasy Football podcast was when I discovered podcasts, was because of that podcast. So that was something I listened to religiously. Never really consumed a lot of content outside of like maybe that podcast and then going on like CBS and seeing those guys. But then that obviously ramped up a little more. You had like the Evan Silva's matchups. That was a must read every week too. So yeah, just it kind of ramped up from there, but those were the main ones that I definitely gravitated to.
Nice. Yeah, and it's pretty common. I think most people do kind of gravitate towards, or they did in the past, those, big corporate sites and whatnot. Cause that was majority of the content. I didn't realize, there was such a world out there of all the people making content behind the scenes and independent places. And so
Exactly. Yeah.
it's been fun to discover. And obviously, like a fantasy alarm, a lot of people, even like today, right? They might play on CBS and they just listen to some CBS analysts and they aren't aware of how awesome Fantasy Alarm is. And so I think it's one of my things is to try to share resources and get people exposed to new sources of content. So I love it. So what do you love most about the fantasy football experience, playing the game?
Just being able to kind of share it with, because I have, everybody has their, most people have their home leagues. And I love the home league experience of being able to meet up with your friends. I had a home league that I was running, and that unfortunately kind of died off a little bit. Life happens and, things happen with people. But, I kind of started a dynasty league with some people, some of those people. And then actually a couple people in the industry too that, wanted to get in there and kind of mix it up a little bit. And that's been a lot of fun too. The Mutual Admiration Society Dynasty.
Nice.
So shout out to that league that, right now it is it's median scoring. It's one quarterback, 8 flexes and a super flex. So
wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And it's a lot of fun because right now I'm at the top of the league, but
of course,
it'd be fun if I were 2-16 as well. But
yeah,
that definitely showing some of my best friends, that side of fantasy, that there's more to it than, it doesn't just have to be seasonal. There's dynasty, there's, the rookie drafts. Like I blew my buddy Joe's mind when I told him, yeah, there's a draft right after the NFL draft where you draft the rookies. He's like, what? How does this work?
Well, that's awesome.
Let me bring you under the tree, my friend. Let's get you in here. But yeah, so just that kind of experience of being able to, what you said, sharing experiences with fantasy is fantastic. And you've obviously done so well with, what you're doing and everything, and certainly appreciative of everything that you've given the space here, and just being able to kind of, just helping one person. If I've helped one person, I feel like I've done my job.
That's awesome. No, I can appreciate that so much. So is that dynasty? Is that what you consider like your main home league at this time?
That would be the main home league. Yeah, I would like to start another one because I do know that some of my friends kind of are itching for that, and there's only so much time of the day, which stinks. But wanting to get back into that, I do want to kind of maybe try to revive the home league a bit more because the trash talking is a lot of fun in the group chat and doing all that. And, being able to do like, if you finish the bottom of the standings, you have to do this, this, and this. And that's a lot of fun for me as far as, because I'm in North Dakota. I'm, thousands of miles away from Syracuse. But that would be something where I'd love to go back to Syracuse and just draft that team with my buddies. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, get that live draft going, and
Yep.
Obviously, any last place punishments are always fun. At least from a competitive standpoint, or from a competition standpoint, from an engagement standpoint, and then obviously, shaming someone who's in last place is always fun too, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like we'll do anything to not finish in last. I haven't, but I've been close, and it's been down to the final week, in the toilet bowl, so to speak, but have staved off the last place punishment that we had in a couple leagues. So
Nice.
Definitely thankful for that.
Nice. Now, do you have preferred settings, preferred formats that you play in?
I mean, I just like the more flexes, the better. Honestly, like I know a lot of leagues are like, the quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and a flex. I really like opening it up a little bit to where, you use more of the player pool. So I will usually, if I'm going to set up a league, it'll be 3 wide receivers, 2 flexes. I'm not super big on the super flex. Like, I don't know if it's just a me thing. I get it, but the whole it's like a quarterback draft within a draft where there's obviously so many fun, so many options that you can have when you draft. And I do kind of like opening that up a little bit more, to where you can maybe just start one quarterback, but you can open it up to the more of the running backs and wide receivers and things like that. So I do like to having the flex, maybe not so much on the super flex, but yeah, just kind of opening it up a little bit. And then I'm a sicko who will try any league, 2 tight end leagues. And I have thought about wanting to do like a worst ball league where, penalties, work their way into it and you get points for that, and drop passes and stuff like that. Like I've talked about this in the group chat. We had the Fantasy Besties group chat with Linda, Jordan Lube, Andrew Cooper, JB Barry. We've talked about that and wanting to do that. So that'd be something interesting to hopefully maybe get down the pike and actually flesh out.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to have other leagues that kind of you can do crazy settings and just keep it fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to strategies, I mean, you are a 0 RB guy, right? How long has that been a thing for you, and where does that passion come from?
Yeah, so it's really funny how that kind of came about because, consuming content and, reading what I think is the best article that's ever been put out by anybody in the industry, which is Sean Siegel's 0 RB, anti-fragility, and the myth-based drafting. That article on RotoViz in 2013 was something that, when you think about the fragility of the running back position and how, running backs, just how that position tends to get hurt a lot with the injury rates. And then, being able to draft the lower tier running backs, and just based on the fragility of taking running backs at higher draft positions, that can actually make your team stronger, more resilient to the stresses of the NFL season. We know NFL season is basically 17, 18 1-week seasons. So, kind of playing that angle was very, very interesting to read, and kind of refocused me as far as, how do I want to attack drafts? And, there's been a lot of people that have, kind of gone into that, like Ben Gretsch and Pat Kerrane, Pete Overzet, guys like that who I consume their content almost daily now, because they're some of the sharpest people in the industry. Just the way they think about football and the way they attack it is not like anybody else. So that's kind of where I get a lot of, get a lot of inspiration from as far as how do I want to attack my league. So it was definitely interesting to read that and kind of refocus and see that, hey, maybe the optimal way isn't to draft, running back. And you can kind of shape your roster with a different texture than other people, and still end up scoring more points because you are beating people to the flex position and being able to, with bye weeks, you're not scrounging to find, the wide receiver 4 on the Bengals. You have Deontay Johnson or Puka Nacua or guys like that you can put into your flex that you're not even starting and still being able to crush people in the bye week. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, obviously thinking outside the box definitely can get it done in fantasy. But you just gotta, you gotta find something that you're passionate about. Obviously dive into the content, test it out, see how it works, and run with it. I love it.
Yeah.
So when did you start creating content for fantasy football?
So that was actually I had followed Casey Kasem for probably a good year or so when I first made my Twitter account. I believe that was I had one before. I had one in like 2011, and then I forgot the password. Made a new one. Made my current one in I think 2014. So I had followed Casey on there for a while, and I had no idea that she was starting to do content for Fighting Chance Fantasy. So I saw she retweeted something that she had done and ended up following Ryan Hallam. And then I sent him just a cold DM. I want to say it was 2017 or the beginning of 2018 about, hey, I would love to write for you guys. Cause I was writing for a couple Green Bay Packers websites and just doing Packers related content and then doing some fantasy content for there, but not really that much because that was, that's kind of maybe a little bit too niche for like that kind of site, but wanting to do specifically fantasy content. So I sent Ryan Hallam a cold DM and like, hey, I'm interested in writing. And then he had me do a mock draft with a bunch of people. And I remember they were doing a podcast. It was Ryan and Steve Rappin. I believe Dwayne McFarland was on there as well. And I remember Dwayne complaining that I sniped him on Robert Foster. He's like, no, I can't even get Robert Foster in a league.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. So like, that was really fun to see. And just kind of started from there. Like I wouldn't be where I am today without Ryan Hallam, full stop. Cause he is one of the most nicest, down to earth, genuine people in the industry and will do anything to help anybody out. And yeah, he gave me a platform, said just write about this. And I wrote about baseball too. It wasn't just football. I'd write about whatever, they needed or whatever I wanted to do. I had kind of the carte blanche to go ahead and do that. So Fighting Chance Fantasy and people, Casey Kasem, Brian Drake, Dwayne McFarland, myself, Matt Chester, so many people have come through that site that you think about this little tiny site, and I know you had Brian Drake on and we kind of talked about that a little bit too, but it's just when you think about it in the industry, like a tiny site like Fighting Chance Fantasy that nobody's gotten paid off of the site to make content. It's for the love of content, the love of putting out great information, and just the fact that a lot of us are kind of front and out there in the industry from that site is just it blows my mind, honestly.
It is amazing. Obviously, it was a huge platform for people to get in, get accustomed to creating content, and it sounds like you guys had a kind of a green light to do stuff and to learn, and you're right. I mean, a lot of amazing people came from that. So then, when was Lightning Round born? Where did that come from?
So myself and Gary Haddo, who, by the way, the one of my favorite moments of all time is watching him drink that beer out of the trophy, the Scott Fishbowl trophy. So we were doing
that was good. That was
fantastic.
Fun.
I still have not met him. He was supposed to come out to the expo last year. Some life stuff got in the way, but hopefully this August, which by the way, on that Thursday, I will be turning 40 years old. So that is going to be a fun Thursday, flying into Canton.
Sure.
I might not be able to do much on that Friday morning.
You got to pace yourself. It's a long weekend.
It is a long weekend, but you only turn 40 once. So
it's true.
It is what it is. But so myself and Gary Haddo were doing a podcast actually right as soon as Scott Fishbowl, the one he won, Scott Fishbowl 9, that following, February, March, we started a podcast called Fighting Chance Live, and we started doing some stuff on YouTube and fantastic. And then probably a year later, when we kind of dissolved the podcast a little bit, but we wanted to do something new with. And kind of lightning round came up because we wanted to do kind of more short form, and it's kind of turned into almost every other podcast as far as the hour long content. But it was myself and Gary, and then we brought in Andrew Cooper, and then Gary kind of backed. He had some life stuff and took some of the focus off of doing football and doing content and stuff like that. So it was myself and Andrew Cooper, and then we brought Britt Flynn in as well. So that's how it is right now. And then we got brought on to Fantasy Alarm, the three of us, because all three of us were doing content for them at that time too. So
yeah,
that's how lightning round started. And we don't. The thing about that is, when I look on YouTube and I look for like fantasy football, a lot of the content is honestly, it looks like a Zoom call. And I didn't want to be like that. I do the graphics and I do a lot of the presentation aspect for lightning round. So I didn't want it to look like a Zoom call. I want it to look like, if I'm just searching around on YouTube, I want what I, put on the screen. I want what people see, like, oh, that looks really cool. That looks awesome. That looks professional. I want to click on that and I want to see what that's all about. That definitely catches people's eyes as far as, the bright, crisp, graphics and that. And now, obviously, Andrew Cooper is one of the sharpest minds in the industry. Yin Yang tight end, you name it. Britt's fantastic. I'm just along for the ride. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. So I think we've got a really good thing going as far as the three of us with our, how well we play off each other. Definitely check it out. It's on the Fantasy Alarm YouTube every Tuesday at 1:00. Cheap plug there. But look, it's one of the two of my best friends. Who can say that? Not a lot of people could say that they love working with they get to work with their best friends, doing what they love, talking about what they love. So
that's great.
Can't beat
That's
it.
great. Yeah, so cool. Obviously, with the community, it's so cool from my perspective just to see all the relationships that have been made out there. It's awesome. But when it comes to Fantasy Alarm, what's your experience been like working with them? I'm sure it's been great. But yeah, tell me more about your experience with Fantasy Alarm.
Yeah, Fantasy Alarm's fantastic. Like, can't say enough about Howard Bender and John and Pemba and James Grande. Guys, Ryan Hallam is over there working on the fanjection side of things there. But yeah, as far as Fantasy Alarm, couldn't be happier being able to work with that fantastic team. Obviously, Howard, him and Jim Bowden had the Sirius show, the Fantasy Alarm show, every weekday. But look, I feel like people kind of, everybody talks about a lot of these other sites. I feel like Fantasy Alarm kind of maybe falls through the cracks, but look, we know our stuff. Some of the most hard, like, if people knew how hard John and Pemba worked, if people knew how truly hard Howard Bender works to do what they do, to put out the content they put out, to give us the platform to be able to put out content, that would blow people's minds as well. So I'm forever thankful to, Howard and John and those guys for putting out just the sheer amount of content. And it's not just football. We're talking Matt Sells, 3-time FSWA Writer of the Year for NASCAR, James Grande, so many people on the basketball side as well, hockey, the DFS certainly. So there's so much stuff, baseball, so much stuff that, Fantasy Alarm does. It's not just a football site. So many great people, so many smart minds. I couldn't imagine working for anybody else, honestly.
That's awesome. Yeah, and again, outstanding people, and that's what it's all about. Great people, and within the community, we've experienced like the expo together. So, what has your experience been with the expo, where you obviously get the biggest dose of that fantasy football community and experience?
Yeah, so it's funny. The expo, I was kind of dreading it the first year I went because I'm an introverted extrovert. Like, it takes me time to get kind of the inner work, getting to work up the courage to talk to people, or even just kind of be around a bunch of people that I don't know. And that's not my comfort thing. Like, I like to kind of dip my toe in the water and then kind of go from there. But I go in an elevator in my hotel and there's like Michael Sipes, and then there's like Scott Fish. Like, okay, well, I guess I'm in the deep end now. But being able to be able to call a lot of these people peers, who you think, you see somebody on the screen, or maybe you see some interactions, and you think that, oh, these people are like massive. Like, you look and, oh, there's Michael Fabiano. Like, oh, look, it's Lisa Ann. Like, I've never been big leagued. I don't think anybody has really been big leagued at the expo, which is that's the best part, is that everybody is down to earth. Everybody's a normal human being, and they want to meet you. They want to hear your story. They want to, share a drink with you, or, share a laugh with you. And, I've never had a bad interaction at the expo, no matter who it's been, no matter who, if I think highly of somebody, I come up and talk to, Denny Carter, who, gotta love Denny. He's one of my favorite people in the space, certainly, and getting to talk to him. And then, obviously, like guys like Elliot Christ and Kendall Valenzuela and, Mauricio Gutierrez, and, just all the way down the line. Like, you want to talk to somebody, they're approachable. That's, and the best part, Bob Lung puts on such a fantastic event. It's not just a schmoz fest for the analyst. It's, if you're a content consumer, certainly come up to us. And we had a lot of people come up to us at, during the actual expo, the Fantasy Alarm booth. We got to talk to a lot of people who consume the content. And that's a lot of what this expo is for too, is we want to know, what are we doing? How can we improve what we're doing? And that's feedback that's, it's immeasurable. You need to have that feedback. So it's not just a meet and greet for the, analysts and everything like that. It's just one big like focus group where you can be able to get feedback and improve with your craft.
Yeah, it's obviously it's about the community, and the community is, it's analysts, experts, it's consumers and enthusiasts.
Yeah, and we
right?
consume content too. So,
Yeah.
That's a lot of that, goes into that too, where I have, my subscriptions to different various sites and use a lot of the tools and stuff like that too. So, that's a lot of that too, is it's not just the consumers that people aren't analysts, we all consume so much content as well. I mean, as much as we can do.
Absolutely, and it gets better. It gets better and better each year you're going. The more, I'm sure, you've experienced, I'm sure, with just the more comfort you have. Because it's about like family. It's about community. It's about people that you've met, repeatedly year after year, and it's just a lot more comfort for everybody involved, which again just makes a stronger and stronger event moving forward.
For sure.
What is your favorite event of the expo? When you got the itinerary for the expo, what do you look forward to most?
I mean, I know Drew Davenport's put on the poker tournament the last couple of years, and that's been a lot of fun. Being able to be part of the King's Classic is, that's front and center, at least for me. I mean, just being able to talk to people like myself, when we were at the booth, it was me and Andrew Cooper and Justin Fensterman doing, videos of people asking them, who's your favorite sleeper of the year? You're a fan of X team. And just being able to kind of we did a bunch of videos like the man on the street videos, which was awesome to get to talk to people and hear their stories and hear, hey, do you play fantasy? How many leagues are you in? What kind of league do you like? What are you looking for as far as, if you're going to be checking out some content? So, yeah, that's definitely, and then obviously getting to meet, so many people, and obviously there's new people coming into, got to meet Lisa Ann this year, got to meet, a lot of other people, which, especially more intimately, like being able to actually talk to them more. Like I talked to you a lot this year, more than any other year, which was, fantastic. Yeah. Getting talked to like Marcus Grant and, people like that. And, obviously myself, I believe Jody Smith, Scott Fish, we all shared a car driving from Cleveland to Canton. So I can only imagine the story, Bob Gilchrist as well. So I can only imagine the stories that went on there, but just being able to get to talk to these people more intimately and really get to know them, and obviously networking too, which is incredibly important as well. So, I mean, there's not things that I don't look forward to. It's just cool thing to cool thing to cool thing. And a lot of the credit really just goes, all the credit really just goes to Bob for being able to space everything out and just put on such a fantastic event.
Yeah, it is amazing, and it is obviously true for the people wanting to get more involved in the industry. I've witnessed so many connections made, so
Yeah.
many jobs created or taken from this event. So it's something we obviously would highly recommend.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Now let's dive into some rapid fire questions, get to know you a little bit better. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in the industry right now?
I enjoy being able to wake up and then literally go downstairs and start and getting to look at, football stats and metrics and stuff like that. Like literally just go my job is I get to talk about, Jordan Addison's target share. I get to talk about, Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and stuff like you talk about people talking about, I want to do what I love for a living, and not many people get to do that. Being able to do that and being able to get paid to do that is amazing. And then I also, I do some freelance editing as well for a couple of media groups as well. So I do kind of love that aspect of it too. And that's mainly betting content, but I do love doing that too. And that just all combining together. I couldn't imagine not doing what I'm doing now, because before this I did do was a travel agent, and you can expect during the pandemic that probably wasn't the best job during the pandemic.
Wow. Yeah. I know it's true for sure. What's been your most difficult challenge thus far?
Honestly, time management. That is something that I think a lot of people struggle with. I've really had to learn how to schedule blocks of time to be able to get things done, because if you don't have like a set thing, it's really easy to lose a day, 2 days, and then you're already behind the 8 ball, and then you're having to kind of make up for it and burn yourself out. So to kind of go against that, just being able to, because I'm a very meticulous. I do like to schedule, but everybody gets bouts of where they may not just write everything out, but yeah, definitely scheduling blocks of time and then just working with time management has been probably the most difficult challenge as far as being able to kind of sustain what I'm doing. But yeah, just even just writing some stuff down and knowing what you have ahead and not it eliminates a lot of the failure as far as having to make up for it later, burning yourself out, burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah, it's definitely a challenge for a lot of people. You're definitely not alone. What's the worst loss you've ever experienced as a sports fan?
I probably so you're a Mariners fan, correct?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
the 1995 Yankees Mariners
Okay,
series.
I mean that was for a Mariner fan, like that was it. That's all we got in the history of the Mariners was that little like 1 month run. So okay, come on. I
Yeah,
love to hear it.
Don Mattingly's last game as a Yankee, and that was my favorite player at the time. That was my dad's favorite player, and just knowing that he wasn't going to be it, because we knew that team was good. That team was really good. And I mean, when you run into Alex Gonzalez or Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr., Edgar and Tino and all those
Yeah.
guys, like you run it as a buzzsaw. But yeah, that, and then the NFC Championship game, Packers and Seahawks. That yeah, well, I think everything's just going to revolve around Seattle, I guess.
I think I set you up for this one.
Yeah,
That's fun.
so Brandon Bostic,
Uh,
the onside kick, and then was it Gary Gilliam caught
oh,
the
yeah. The lineman. Yeah. Oh, and then I
Oh
mean that.
man.
Yeah, no, this is fun. We'll take a timeout on the rapid fire because that's sports for you, right? Like those are the two worst losses that you can remember. Were like number one, definitely my favorite Mariner experience of all time. Griffey round in third. So I mean
Yep.
that's the pivotal moment in the history of Seattle Mariners baseball. And then as a Seahawks fan, I mean, few things were better than that game because you guys dominated. Russell had how many, like 4 or 5 interceptions, 4
Yeah.
interceptions. And I can remember like that was probably my favorite sports moment with friends that I've ever experienced, because I got people running around the house, tearing off their shirts, just screaming, losing their minds on the floor because it was the most improbable comeback ever. So it's crazy how sports is, right? You can have those experiences. I can have the complete opposite, but in the end, we all experience those. So
Exactly.
my
Yeah.
condolences to you.
Thank you. I know those are truly heartfelt, Kev. But and another one too. The 07 NFC against the Giants, the Packers and Giants. Favre's last pass as a Packer, being in a crowded bar full of Giants fans as the only Packers fan there. Probably assume that didn't work out super great for me. But yeah, that one was not great, but yeah, definitely the two against the Seattle, which it's like you said, it's funny how that works out, as it's like you talk about the March Madness, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows.
For sure. Now, what are your favorite moments as a sports fan that you can remember?
Probably, I mean, the Packers winning the Super Bowl against the Patriots in '97, and then certainly the one in 2011 against the Steelers. Yeah. I mean, Charlie Hayes catching the ball in foul territory for the '96 World Series winning Yankees is definitely up there too. And then, I mean, Syracuse 2003 national championship, which I went to every single home game, stormed the court twice against Pittsburgh, where we all stormed the court, and then they had to run the last second off the clock. But yeah, the Carmelo Anthony, Jerry McNamara Syracuse team, which I'll never forget that as long as I live, that entire journey, and then getting to New Orleans for that game as well. Which is funny because in Syracuse they had a massive ice storm that I believe it was Sunday and Monday because the game was on Monday. So people had not a lot of people had power, so they had to go to the Carrier Dome to watch the game. They had the 4 screens on where they had the football field, but they set up 4 screens so 25,000 people watched that game because they didn't have power at the Carrier Dome. But that was the only time I've been in New Orleans for that game, and that was I don't remember a lot of that, but I know Syracuse won.
I love it. What's the best compliment you've ever received?
Honestly, there's nothing that really comes to mind, but just friends just checking up on you, because I think that's incredibly important. It's not really a one specific thing for me. It's just because I try to check up on friends, even if you haven't talked to them in a while. Just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. I hope you're doing great, and that those are the kind of things that mean the world, at least to me. So I like to kind of pay that forward and do that, but. Being able to get those from friends that maybe, obviously we're all busy and living our lives, but, just those things that, hey, hope you're doing great. I saw you on YouTube and, you look like you're doing awesome, and, good luck with everything. And I'll be tuning in. Just stuff like that, just check-ins from people rather than just one specific compliment. I think that just, that means even more, I believe, than just one compliment, in a vacuum.
That's awesome. Now this is really a random, funny question, strange question. As a Kevin, when someone calls you Kev, how does that make you feel?
I mean, I'm on both sides of the fence. I don't, in some instances, I don't mind it, but in others, as far as some written content, sometimes it'll come out as Kev Tompkins, and I'm like, no, it's Kevin Tompkins. I like that,
okay.
But Kev just as a nickname, I don't mind that. Are you not on the Kev side of that?
No, this is funny because I always joke around with my friends. If someone calls me Kev, I always tell them, hey man, they call me Kev. That to me, that means there's a connection. There's a connection. So I love to be called Kev sometimes in the right moment. But I never, from a professional standpoint, I mean, Kev, that'd be kind of strange.
I get Kevo sometimes though.
Okay, it's endearing. I don't mind it, but not a regular thing. But at the right time, it's okay, that person we get each other. I don't know. Just a random question.
100% go with that. And just kind of as an aside, because I don't think I've ever really mentioned this, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receiver Devin Tompkins, every time they mention him, I always have to look over like, is someone calling me? Like,
Oh, funny.
I tweeted about that, a few weeks ago because he scored a touchdown, and I'm like, I heard Devin Tompkins, and like I got a text like, did you see that the guy, is that your cousin? Like, oh. So yeah, and that's another thing too, is the Tompkins with the H. That is that's a kind of a pet peeve.
Yeah,
I'm not going to go off on that, but
that's funny.
that just made me think of it.
I mean, for me, like a Murray without an A, MURRY.
Yeah,
It's like, what just happened? What's an insult that you've received that you're proud of?
I mean, being a zero RB guy, I mean, I think that just people that are so kind of emotionally invested in how they think teams should be drafted, and then using kind of that as an insult. But I believe it was, I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Michael Reedy, said that I'm a zero RB evangelist at one point. And I think that was, I know it wasn't an insult, but I mean, I would say that might be something that I'm proud. I mean, I've been called, if you click the see more tweets, if you say something that maybe people don't agree with, and I literally just did that the other day where I had a tweet. Yesterday I traded in a dynasty where I had no running backs. Like I had Ramondre Stevenson on bye week, and you start one running back and it's like 7-8 flexes. I was up to starting Keontae Ingram, which we know obviously James Conner's back, so that's not great. So I traded Puka Nacua for Saquon Barkley. And this is a dynasty. It's not a season long, but, I know the Giants are not looking great, but, I'm totally fine with that trade. I have a bunch of wide receivers, but clicking the see more tweets and just seeing people railing on you for making a trade in a dynasty league, it kind of opens your eyes a little bit to how people can do that. And it's hard. I get it. It's hard for people that maybe are starting up in the industry or that are newer to see stuff like that, and that can affect you. But at this point, it just rolls off my back, and all I can do is laugh. And I think that's important to know that not everybody is going to like what you do. You can just kind of only control what you can control.
Great message for sure. Now, aside from the fantasy industry, what's the favorite job you've ever had?
Favorite job. After high school, I worked at a portrait studio, actually, for, taking kids and families and stuff like that. That was right out of high school, going to school. And that was actually learning about how to, how dark rooms operate, and being able to do that, and being able to, how do you get a kid's attention? How do you get everybody to sit still? Like that job, really tests your patience. And I think that's been actually something I've been able to take from that. So that's probably been my favorite job outside of fantasy that I've had. I mean, I've worked at restaurants. I've worked at, obviously I was a travel agent, like I mentioned before, but that's probably the best job as far as if I can take something away from this experience and being able to do that, and something that's pretty rewarding, it would probably be that.
That's good. How about your least favorite job?
We'll go back to the travel agent, just because, like I understand how people can get with travel and wanting things to work out, as they want them, and not every time that can happen, but just managing people's expectations. And then obviously the pandemic happened, where I lost at least a good 5 figures in commissions just off of the pandemic alone,
like
cruises and
yeah. Oh.
It was not good. And I work for, a pretty national travel agency too. So you're talking, just so many people just outright canceling. And the thing that you don't think about, it's not just something you can click a button to cancel. We as travel agents have to call, whether it's Norwegian or, Carnival or, whatever and then travel insurance. If people have that, we are the ones that have to call. And this is like a good 2-3 month process for
Wow.
all of these people. So that was pretty much what we were doing 24/7 as people were canceling. As people were adding on, we want to cancel this. Oh, well, they're not going to let us go in without this. All right. So I guess we're going to have to cancel this a year later. So it's just stacking on stacking. And that pretty much got unfun. And that was the last job I had before I ended up doing fantasy football. So go from the lowest of lows to the highest of highs right now.
Nice. So what are your favorite hobbies, interests outside of fantasy sports?
Yeah, just a typical, I love I love craft beer. Big sour guy. Shout out John Bosch, by the way, for I know he's a big sour guy and he got me really into them and gave me a lot of recommendations for that. So love a good sour, certainly. Love video games, always have. Actually, I'm going to be starting up a new YouTube channel to do some streaming after the season. Definitely too busy to do that now, but it's something I've always wanted to do for years and years and years. I've been pretty, big into video games and stuff like that, and always wanting to do that. So that is something that I will be trying to get kind of off the ground here in January, February or so. So that'll be fun. But other than that, love traveling, love the outdoors, love being on the water. Anything very, very low maintenance as long as I'm with great people, it really doesn't matter what I'm doing.
That's great. Now, do you have a all-time favorite movie?
Favorite movie. I love Rocky 3. That's probably that's my favorite Rocky. And I know that's a lot of people will say, there's Rocky 2, Rocky 1, the newer Rockies, but Rocky 3, that's to me, that's the quintessential. If you think about Rocky, that's the movie you think of, going up against Mr. T and all that. I love Rounders. Certainly John Malkovich. I love Role Models is one of my favorite movies as well. And you talk about, the older movies like Tommy Boy and Dumb and Dumber. I love a good comedy, but, Die Hard, one of my favorite movies as well. So, those, and I guess, we're getting up at Thanksgiving. Is Die Hard a Christmas movie?
Yeah, I'll say it is. It's. I think it is. What's your opinion on that?
No, I'm 100% in on that. That's my take.
Yeah, I'll take it. So is that since it's a holiday movie and you mentioned it, is that your favorite all-time holiday movie?
It would have to be, right? It's that, or like, I've watched A Christmas Story about a bajillion times too, and I'm not getting sick of it. So I guess that's probably up there too. Of course, Bad Santa, the Santa Claus, the classic stuff like that. I guess if I was going to have to kind of remove Die Hard, I would say it's probably between A Christmas Story and Bad Santa.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a Christmas Vacation guy, Griswold,
that's good too.
Solid stuff. Oh, always good. So here's a question. Now you're stuck on a deserted island. You got 5 people with you. You need a captain, a comedy relief person, someone for entertainment, someone that can just get the hard work done, and you need someone to just be a mastermind to kind of help figure everything out. Either get off the island or at least kind of figure out a way to survive. So who's your captain? Who's the leader of the group?
Captain would probably have to be just somebody that people can rally around, somebody like a figure. Probably Scott Fish, honestly.
Good answer. How about comedy relief? Someone just to keep things light, to be funny, entertained.
Somebody who has never not kept me entertained, and he's also one of the nicest people in the industry, is Joey Wright, 100%. The only man that I would let corner me in a bathroom at the expo to put a camera in my face. But definitely Joey Wright. He would be the one to kind of keep everything kind of even keel and throw in some barbs here every now and then.
Good stuff. How about nighttime entertainment? Whether it's singing, some type of show, just something to keep the morale high.
Probably one of the funniest people I know, Pete Overzet, 100%. Dude can do improv. The dude, he thinking on his feet and being able to say the perfect thing at the perfect time. Like there's not many people that are better than him at doing that.
So witty for sure. Now you need someone just to get the work done, the grind. Someone day in, day out gets it done.
Yeah, that's I mean, I mentioned him before because I don't think he gets the due in the industry that he really should, because he's not quite behind the scenes because he does kind of put his face out there, but John and Pemba of Fantasy Alarm, that's definitely somebody that doesn't get the due that he should. Is one of the hardest working people in the industry. So yeah, he would be the one that, if you needed just work done to grind that out, he would be the one.
Nice, nice. And then you need a mastermind, someone that can actually like think on another level when it comes to either survival or getting you out of there. Who would that be?
Um, Try to narrow this down, but if there was one person, I'd say JJ Zacharyson. I don't know anybody that is as successful as many things and thinks the way he does. Just about content, about life. I mean, obviously East Coast dad. Can't beat that. But yeah, he would be the one guy that I would trust to put everything together and get us off the island.
It's good. That's a good group. I like where you went with that. Can you name a person in the industry that you'd love to just watch a game with, just to see their perspective on the game?
Yeah, and I know he's put out more content as far as the video side than he ever has. But just being able to watch a game with like Sean Siegel and seeing how he and I'll throw Brent Gretchen there too, because they both do this Stealing Bananas podcast on RotoViz. But just those two together, being able to watch a game with them and just seeing how they process football, how they process what's going on the field, and then translating that to actionable information that you can bring with you and letting you think about football in a whole different way that you never really thought was a way to think about it. Those two would be front and center for me.
That's great. Great answer. Now, if you could be remembered for one thing, what would it be?
I mean, just somebody who would give you the shirt off his back. And I hope I made you laugh along the way. That's pretty much, I mean, that's pretty much it for me, honestly. Because, I have probably should have a higher opinion of myself, I guess, because I think we're all our worst critics. But, as long as you kind of pay it forward and do what you can for other people, everything else will come.
Perfect. Perfect answer. Now, obviously, you've done a great job with getting connected in the industry. It's been a journey. So, who along the way, if you could name a few people that have just really had a massive impact to you during this journey, who would you name out?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned them a lot before, but certainly Ryan Hallam, Steve Rappin, Brian Drake, Gary Haddow, Casey Kasem, certainly, and then did some work with Fantasy Life, so can't, thank enough, Elliot Christ and Jordan Fiegelman, Matthew Berry, certainly. I don't know how many people could say that Matthew Berry sent me a cold DM about wanting to work for him. So that's one of the coolest moments probably of my life, is seeing that DM pop up about joining Fantasy Life. So always treasure that experience. And then certainly Howard Bender, John and Pemba, being able to work for Fantasy Alarm. Just there's so many people that have had such a great impact on that, and forever thankful for just any opportunity they've ever gotten in this industry. And hope to certainly be able to pay that forward for other people, as we go along here.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Now, obviously, at one point you were an aspiring analyst. What advice do you have for people that want to get more involved in the industry?
Just really just be active, like be in the conversation. Like don't you're not gonna be getting anywhere by kind of staying in the background. Like I know it's tough because I'm somebody who, like I've said before, I'm an extroverted introvert. It takes me a little bit to get comfortable with talking to people, but at some point you just got to put yourself out there and be like, hey, I'm so and so, and I'd love to see what and always be available too. Because I know when we're all starting out, we have this, mindset of I want to do this and I want to do that, but you have to open yourself up to, doing what you can, for people and kind of earning that trust. Because, like I said, I wrote baseball content. Like I grew up as a baseball guy first before getting into football, but I've kind of waned on baseball a little bit and do a lot of football now. But I had the knowledge where I could write about baseball if that's what they needed. I was happy to do it, and then kind of go from there. So kind of, just making yourself available and putting yourself out there, I think, are two of the most important things. And then, but there's also the flip side of you could put yourself out there, but don't really put all of yourself out there. Like there's, obviously we've seen with people that have had some, tweets in the past and stuff like that, and things that people maybe regretted they said. And I get that comes with maybe being a bit younger and maybe less mature than you are now if that's stuff that happened in the past. But, just kind of being cognizant of, things like that where you don't have to put everything out in the open, but doing that in a measured way. So being available and then just being out there ready to help at a moment's notice.
It's great advice. Excellent advice for sure. Kevin, is there anything you want to share before we close things out here today?
Kev, just want to thank you for, getting to talk with you for the hour here. Really appreciate, watch back some of the episodes, that you did before and loved what you do, and, keep it up, and I'll be watching every episode and going back and watching the previous episodes, cause this is awesome that what you're doing here. And, just definitely appreciate you, having me on and getting to talk to you.
Hey, it's been an absolute pleasure. So much fun talking to you. Definitely would love to do it again sometime. Tell the listeners where they can find you.
Yeah, you can find me on X, Twitter, whatever the kids are calling it, at K Tompkins II. Those IIs are Roman numerals because I am the second Kevin Tompkins. You can find my work at fantasyalarm.com. You can find Lightning Rounds podcast, myself, Britt Flynn, and Andrew Cooper, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So be on the lookout for that. Also do our target report on Fantasy Alarm as well every Thursday, and then a video every Tuesday afternoon. So check that stuff out and go subscribe to Fantasy Alarm.
There we go. Well, Kev, it was great having you. Look forward to seeing what you got ahead of you going forward.
Thanks, Kev. Appreciate it. Absolutely. 100%.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.